Do you sit in a bath or do you lay in a bath? Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today is January 31st. Yeah, so I got really sick today. Our family is passing around a stomach bug, so I wasn't able to go to work and I kind of just feel like crap all day long. I thought it'd be really nice to take a hot bath. Maybe that'll help me feel better, and when I do that, I'm going to sit down and start reading the selection. I was gonna try to wait until tomorrow, which is actually February, when I'm gonna be reading this book. I have time right now and I feel like reading and I don't feel like doing much else, so let's go. You're not gonna be joining me in the bath, sorry to say. I'll talk to you after I've made some progress in the book though. I made it all the way through chapter 5. The book has 25 chapters, so I decided to keep myself accountable, checking in with you guys. I'm going to try to do it at the end of every 5 chapters. So before I start talking about the book, I just want to say that if you haven't read this, or you don't want spoilers, or you don't know anything about this book, don't keep watching, because like I'm gonna be talking about it in detail. And also please just ignore me. I'm going to be drinking ginger ale to help settle my stomach. Settling of my stomach has nothing to do with the book's quality. It has everything to do with the fact that I have a stomach bug. I'm not going to be giving a summary of this book because I'm going to kind of be like talking about it with you as you go. So if you want to read a summary, go to Goodreads. Mine is linked down below. I didn't take any notes in chapter 1, so we're just going to start off in chapter 2. One of the things that I found really funny in that chapter was Aspen was basically saying exactly how I was feeling about this selection process at this point. He said, okay, well, part of me thinks it's kind of sad. Doesn't the prince date? I mean, can he seriously not get anyone? They try to wed the princesses to other princes. Why don't they do the same for him? There's got to be some more out there good enough for him. I don't get it, so there's that. Then he sighed, part of me thinks it's a good idea. It's exciting, he's going to fall in love in front of everyone, and I like that someone gets happily ever after and all that. Anyone could be our next queen. It's kind of hopeful, makes me think that we could have a happily ever after too. Yeah, so that made me kind of go like, I know that I didn't like Aspen as a character the first time I read it, but I definitely have to agree with him there that like part of me is like, this is such a ridiculous book series, like come on, like can't he just meet someone? But then also part of me is like, oh, this is so exciting, let's just keep watching. After that, in chapter 3, there was a line that said they turned our necessities into luxuries, and I thought that was really cool because I remember watching a video one time with someone saying that like when they were in young grade school that they used to get made fun of for wearing like thrifted clothes because they were poor, and how nowadays that's like the new and cool thing. So all of a sudden like wearing thrifted clothes won't make you poor necessarily, and how that some of that has even taken away from like poor people having so many options. And then also in chapter 3, America was talking to her dad, and he said, America, if you love an 8, I'd want you to marry him. But you should know that love can wear away under the stress of being married. Someone you think you love now, you might start to hate when you couldn't provide for you. And if you couldn't take care of your children, it's even worse. Love doesn't always survive under those types of circumstances. I really liked that quote because this book is a romance book, but it was really nice to have the father like be such straightforward character with her. And then also in chapter 3, there was a moment where America was talking with her brother Durand, I think is how you would say his name, and she pointed out it's unreasonable to limit everyone's life choices based on your ancestors' ability to help the government. And that helped me like understand the world building of this book, because quite remember understanding from last time was how you became a certain number, and right here she straight up was talking about like whatever your great ancestors did, that's your job. Okay, and next in chapter 4, America at one point was thinking the thought, maybe it's silly, but I always loved our national anthem. It's one of my favorite songs to sing, and all I would like to say is, yes, that is silly, America. Don't say that. Don't say that out loud to anyone. So in chapter 5, there was an argument between Aspen and America, and eventually led to Aspen breaking up with America. First off, America finally was earning some money, so she decided to make Aspen like a really nice meal. And then he got upset and said, America, I'm supposed to be providing for you. It's humiliating for me to come here and have you do all this for me. And I just want to say that is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. I really hate when male book characters say that kind of shit. So one of the things America always did for him is she would sing for him and then he would give her a penny in exchange for it. And she was trying to argue, you shouldn't pay me at all. It's a gift. Anything of mine you want, you can have. And I was like, girl, you are too sensible to be sticking around with this boy. This is why I didn't like Aspen. I'm gonna see if maybe I can get through chapter 10 tonight at least and update you guys again on that. Oh, and of course, the last thing I need to say before I leave you guys is that at the end of chapter 5, America got called as being one of the selected to go. That's where I've left off. Hi, it's later the same night. Still having some stomach issues, so that means I'm still reading. Made it past chapter 10, so it's time for me to give you guys a quick update. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to mention came from chapter 6, and it was a comment from America. She was thinking to herself, this guy was asking her basically if she was a virgin because there's a law in the land saying that you're not allowed to have sex until you're married. And it wasn't even the comment she made, so I'm not going to read it to you. It was just kind of like, how are they making this a law? And it seems to be like a pretty big factor in the entire book, so. Okay, the next two comments that I highlighted go together. One of them was someone told America that when referring to the prince, you do not arrange your times with the prince. He will seek you out for one-on-one company if he wants it. And then right after that, the same person said, when you are invited to do something with Prince Maxon, you do not refuse, no matter what it is. Dinner, outings, kisses, more than kisses, anything. You do not turn him down. And the comment that I wanted to make on these two parts was that, like, the author is really trying to make Maxon feel like this antagonist before you've ever met him, and like as soon as you meet him you realize he's not. He's like such a lovely person, but like she really pushed like any kind of tension there could have been into the idea of him being like this bad guy. Also, on that second quote, I couldn't help but like laugh at this grown adult man talking to this teenage girl and being like, kisses, anything more than kisses. Who says the word kisses? Like if I'm talking to someone about kisses, I'm gonna be like, kissing. The next thing was America and Aspen talking. He said, stop it, America, I did the right thing. And then she said, the right thing, Aspen, you made me believe we could do it. And I just highlighted that because no matter what you think of Aspen, I think he's a piece of shit because he really did make her think that like they could be everything together and then just took it away. The next quote that I have highlighted came from chapter 7. It said, if I came back used and unwanted, he'd still be proud of me. America was talking about her father still being proud of her. I highlighted it because the word used really bothered me there. America just got back to her bedroom and she met her maids for the first time, and she said Lucy, Anne, and Mary, but I forgot which was which almost immediately. I thought that was really funny because she had been bragging up until this point about how she had memorized all 35 of the girls' names, caste systems, where they were from, all that jazz, and then she has 3 maids and she can't remember their names. The next quote was still from chapter 9, and she said, Beryl was beautiful, but in a typical way it was similar to Celeste's style. I was having a big issue with this kind of stuff throughout this section of the book. America kept referring to how she wore such little makeup and how that was beautiful, and how girls who were wearing more makeup than her were like pounding it on or were overdoing something, and I just wish that she wouldn't tear other girls down for wearing makeup or for not wearing makeup or for whatever reasons. I was just getting sick and tired of her tearing these girls down for trying to look good in their appearance, and how she thought that beauty could only be one way, and that was through simplicity. Okay, and then the next quote I highlighted was from chapter 10. There was just this beautiful interaction where Maxon meets America on accident for the first time, and it's just such like a, it's one of those scenes that when you're reading it, you're like, yes, this is what I came here for. Like, this is why you read YA romance books, for these awkward interactions. So he said, what have I done to offend you? Did I not just give you the very thing you asked for? And I felt like he had such a right to say that because, like, she signed up for this. Like, she kept complaining that it was a cage, but yeah, she didn't want to be there. I get that, but she still signed up for it. And then he said, about a paragraph down from that, if it would make you happy, I would let the staff know you prefer the gardens. Then you come out here at night without being manhandled by the guards. I just wanted to include that because we've seen this negative view of Maxon from all of the like servants and guards or whatever they were who were telling America like, oh, you gotta let him have kisses and more than kisses if he wants them. And then you actually meet him and he's the exact opposite. And I turned to watch Maxon as he walked away, giving me the privacy I'd wanted all day, as if he's the only person in her life who can give her exactly what she wants. I will check back in with you guys in another 5 chapters. Morning, it's February 1st. There's construction going on in the house. It's the weekend, which means that's happening right now. I finished through chapter 15. I read through chapter 14 last night, and then I read the 15th chapter this morning when I woke up. I'm going to do my chapter 15 check-in at the same time that I do my chapter 20 check-in. Hi, it's Monday. I just got out of the shower, so my face is a little bit red and my hair is wet. And you know why. I didn't read any more on Saturday, and I didn't read any on Sunday, but as of right now, I'm at chapter 21. I meant to stop at chapter 20, but I made a mistake and thought that I was at chapter 19, so I read 2 more chapters without looking, and then when I got to the end of that, my book was like, you're at chapter 22 now, and I was like, well, I really need to check in with these peeps. Starting in chapter 12, apparently I didn't take notes in 10 or 11, there was a moment where America was eating these muffins, and they were so good that like her and Maxon made a bet that he could send some to her sister and it would make her sister cry. And then he said the sweetest thing, because he said maybe next time we'll try to make her laugh, and I was just like, oh my god, this boy. You get confused by crying women, I get confused by walks with princes. Still from chapter 12, knee-jerk reaction, literally, I need his majesty in the thigh, hard. Yeah, they were on a walk and she just kept like repeating in her head all the things people had said that like Prince Maxim was gonna ask her to do, and he like leaned in to say something and she was like, oh my god, he's gonna take advantage of me, and she literally kneed him in the balls. In chapter 13, I highlighted the first moment that America compliments Celeste. I knew what Celeste looked like at ease, and this wasn't it. Still, compared to the others, she hid her emotions well. Still in chapter 13, finally, I was getting really annoyed with America because she wasn't telling Maxon that what people had been saying about him, so he like didn't know why she had need him or why she would look at him like that, and she finally told him. He made it sound like he would ask for certain things. And I was just really proud of her because I hate when plot is driven by miscommunication. Later in chapter 13, Prince Maxon asked her a question if she wanted to leave. He asked her 3 times, and then she like just kept like going on about other things, and then finally he's like, you didn't answer me, do you want to leave? And she still didn't answer him at that point. They kept talking about other things, and then finally at the very end of this, she said, if you're not kicking me out, I'm not leaving. And I highlighted that because technically that's still not an answer. That's just saying that she's not going to leave. That's not saying whether or not she wants to leave. In chapter 13, I also made a note that they started talking more about the rebel groups and what they're doing outside of the palace. I won't get into much detail about that. Okay, so still in chapter 13. Chapter 13 was a good chapter for notes. Marlee had her first date, and right when America saw her, she had this thought. She said, I had started talking about Maxon as soon as I could. Still in chapter 13, America is back in her room and she notices that Lucy's shudders became slower. I just made a note of that because I was really happy that there was more substance to some of the characters, like Lucy having this PTSD of this horrible event, and I was really proud of Kiera Cass for like including some diversity in that sense into here. She does include some diversity racially, where she kind of brings up that the queen is from our present day Honduras, so that was nice. Although I don't know if there's many other references to any racial diversity. I know there's a lot of reference to like Asian cultures, but like I haven't heard any mention of like really dark-skinned people, so I'm gonna keep a lookout for that. And the maids are talking with America in chapter 13 still, and they're saying differences between the different positions that a 6 can have. And America thinks to herself, I felt stupid. In my mind, they were all 6s, but there were rankings even within that, statuses that I didn't understand. I made a note of when they tell Lucy's story of when the rebels got a hold of her and what they did to her. I'm not going to read that out loud. Okay, I don't really remember what this was exactly in reference to, and I can't find the quote that America says to him, but he says, maybe I was just flattering myself thinking I'd be worth some sort of risk. Not that I'd wish that on anyone, he clarified. I don't mean that. I don't know. Don't you see everything I'm risking? The moment where he says, thinking I'd be worth some sort of risk is just, oh, that gets me. And then also her not seeing like what he's risking for all of this. Like, definitely I understand like what she's going through in this whole entire scenario, but I feel like I also really feel for him. So America said, in my experience, true love is usually the most inconvenient kind. And he's sitting there going, and you don't hear this, but you as a reader know that he's sitting there thinking like, oh my god, maybe she likes me, maybe like, you know, we were supposed to just be friends, but maybe she's like leaning more towards liking me. And then she says, yeah, you should go for Marley, I think you guys are hitting it off, she's incredibly sweet. And then I highlighted the part where Maxon made a strange face. Yeah, because girl, he thought that you were going to be the one you were going to be talking about. Dear girls, history isn't something you study, it's something you should just know. And even America kind of like made a comment like, that's bullshit in her head, but like, that's bullshit. In chapter 17, I highlighted a quote that only makes sense if you've read the previous chapter. The girls were talking about what they do on dates with him, and everyone's like, who the heck would talk about politics with him? Like, I'm not doing that on my date. That's what he does all day long. And then literally 2 paragraphs later, America starts talking to him about some of the stuff with the lower castes, and I think something along the lines of, this was far more controversial topic of discussion, and I could see him wanting to avoid it. And I'm like, yeah, because he's on a date, but also like, if you guys are going to be married, you're going to have to talk about these things, so it's good, America, that you're bringing it up. Later, in chapter 18, I highlighted the quote that one of the maids said to America, the reason she was asked to leave is because she said some rather unkind things about you. One of the girls was asked to leave, and we don't know the reason why, and then one of the maids reveals, is because someone's talking shit about you, girl. Chapter 18 is when Maxon reveals that he's going to start helping the poor people by feeding them, and that was just... it was a great moment. Chapter 18 is also when they kiss for the first time, and it is so absolutely awkward and beautiful. I loved that moment. Chapter 20, you find out that Aspen is in the castle because he is one of the guards protecting them. And then right after you find him, Eric and Maxon are walking by and he gasps, and then they see him and she gasps, and then they talk very briefly, and Maxon's like, this girl of yours refuses to keep a maid in her room at night. You should go protect her. Maxon doesn't know who Aspen is. He just knows that they're old friends. And I'm like, not only are you putting him right outside of her room at night, but you also just told him that no one is in there to protect her. Like, oh my god, America's all like, oh my god, I have to leave because like he's around me and I can't think with him here. And honestly, I'd be all like, I gotta leave because there's a strange man outside my room who has like a uber crush on me and is kind of obsessing with me and broke up with me because he thought it was for my own good, and now he knows that I'm sleeping all alone at night and he's supposed to be protecting me. And I do know that that is a plot point later on in the book, so honestly I have hindsight. Chapter 21, few really short comments I would like to make now that I'm at the end of it. This is really reminding me of the Hunger Games. I think it's really focusing on like the idea of competition, the idea of caste systems divided by numbers. I think also America and Katniss have a few like similar character traits. Like they're definitely not the same person, but there's some similarities, and the writing style is somewhat similar too. It's definitely not as good as the Hunger Games, but like I'm getting like real strong urges to go and read the Hunger Games next, but that is not next month, so I will wait until the proper time to read that. The other thing I wanted to comment on is there was a part, and I meant to highlight it but I forgot to, where they all go to, it's the like news report, and all of the other girls decide to wear blue to copy America, and then America's maids put her in red. And all I could think about was like, she has bright fiery red hair, and isn't that like the #1 rule for redheads is you're not supposed to wear red? So I have 4 more chapters left. I'm gonna finish this tonight. I most likely will not check back in with you tonight, but who knows? Sometimes I'm unpredictable. Hi, welcome back. It's the next day. I ended up finishing the book last night, which was expected, and I had to wait until I got home from work to be able to talk to you about it. Really quickly, before I start talking about my notes and stuff on the book, when I got to the acknowledgements, I've started learning that authors' acknowledgements are usually really funny, so now I read them. The first line of the acknowledgements went, okay, just in case you're really busy or tired because you stayed up late finishing. Haha, that's exactly what I was doing. Okay, so starting at chapter 22. So America and Maxon got into a fight. They got into a fight because Celeste poured her drink onto another girl when it was the girl's birthday to draw some of the attention away from her. And I just felt like the fight was really weak. The fight is the driving force that pushes America back into the arms of Aspen, and it felt like a really weak part. They hadn't fought up until this point, and he really didn't seem like the kind of person who would respond so negatively about this kind of thing. And I feel like that was shown also in like literally the next day he woke up and was like, please forgive me. So I didn't really believe that part, so that was a little bit of a shame. And then in chapter 23, Aspen is like, oh, the girl you saw me with, she tripped and I caught her. And I was like, yeah, but like your arms are around her for a decent amount of time, so I don't like that. Chapter 23 also, America's like, Aspen, I never stopped loving you. And I was like, Aspen, I don't care. Still in chapter 23, the raid was happening in the castle and America took her maids into the bunker with her, and everyone was kind of like having a little hissy fit about it. And she said, she's talking about the other girls in the selection, they chose to leave their maids alone, they can get their own damn water. Preach. And then chapter 24, I highlighted the quote, I felt a warm sense of sisterhood this morning. Now we had survived a major rebel attack together. I just like that because when you do go through something tough like that, you do feel this sense of camaraderie with people. Okay, then in chapter 24, Maxon makes his decision to send home everyone except for 6 girls. I highlight that because that's just a big moment in the book. Like, oh my goodness, it's such a big moment. And then in the final chapter, the line that I felt like needed some credit, even though I felt like I've heard this line before in other books, but you know what? I'm gonna back off. It's a good line no matter what. And it is, America's talking to Aspen and he's like, you're choosing him? And she said, no, I'm not choosing him or you. I'm choosing me. So those are kind of the notes that I took while reading the book. I also just finished up my Goodreads review. You can't see any of that. That's great. Again, I read this book as part of my 2020 reread challenge. This is one of the books that is farther back in my rereads challenge. Like, I haven't read this book in 7 years, and I think that might be the longest I'm going on this series, but don't quote me on that. I was pleasantly surprised by it. My rating used to be a 5 out of 5 stars. It did lower down to a 4 out of 5 stars. That was simply because of a lot of the issues I've already talked to you guys about. Aspen kind of being a jerk with his pride and saying that like he needs to provide for America definitely gave me a bad taste in my mouth. America's virginity being referred to as something that could be lost or taken and that she could be used up. Definitely didn't love that. Fight at the end between America and Max and that I just talked about being kind of convenience to push the plot. Didn't really like that. Didn't seem totally believable. And then the whole entire issue with America like shaming other girls for wearing makeup or doing their hair or caring how they look. If you want to know more details, you feel like I haven't spoken enough about those, go onto my Goodreads review. It'll be linked down below. I talk more depth about those 4 things. Some of the things I really liked about the book, I caught myself gushing over the romance, which is really weird for me. I'm not a huge romance person, especially when I'm reading. I think that maybe this book ruined other romance books for me, or even just other romances in books that aren't specifically romance. This one was done well. Maybe because it's a competition, I like that. I really like the camaraderie between the girls. It's not between all of the girls, but specifically between America and a few of the other selected, and then America and her sister, and America and her maids. I feel like it's really positive connection, and I like that. I feel like the book dealt with a lot of issues that were really important in 2013 when it came out, and still in 2020. Like caste systems, the wealth gap, hunger, family. I know that the issue of who you love is going to come up in later books, so I will address that more when I get to those books, but just all of those things are so important for people of this age group to be reading these books. I definitely think these books are more for late middle school, early high school, maybe even later high school, but definitely more of like a high school grade, and that is such an important time to be learning about some of these issues in something that interests you, and I think this book does a good job with those things. Also, and finally, there were just so many moments where I was just like, girl, like, yeah. The final question I have to ask myself, and I'll be asking this on all of these books, and at least the ones that were on my favorite shelf and still are. This one is still on my favorite shelf, so the question is, after I've reread it, has it stayed there? And I did a lot of soul searching, I did a lot of thinking. It's definitely not one of my favorite books of all time anymore. It doesn't get that title as it used to have, but it's one of my favorites in this genre, and I felt that that was a strong enough argument to leave it on my favorite shelf. I also think that I would like to give a little bit of respect to past Amanda, to 16-year-old Amanda who read this book and loved it so much that she put it on that shelf, and I'm gonna be leaving it there. That's where it's at now. I'm really happy that I reread this book. I'm going to be starting the Elite tonight, so you're going to see the video starting off with this shirt again. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me today. I hope you enjoyed. Check back in the next week or so to see the Elite and then eventually the One. I'm excited to be reading those. And comment down below if you've read this series or if you're thinking about rereading a series from your past, and or tell me how it's going. I will be excited to talk to you. So until next time, bye.